The world's top players travel across the globe to the Crown Casino in Melbourne, Australia to play in the biggest poker event in the history of the Southern Hemisphere. At stake, over $7.5 million. FullTiltPoker.net presents the Aussie Millions. A record field of 747 players began on day one, but one by one, many top pros fell. Now, just 25 players remain. Among them, a superstar at the top of his game.
That's sick. That's sick.
A former world champion struggling to survive.
Yeah, I'm still here. I'm not going anywhere.
Two total unknowns trying to make their mark.
Yes.
And a pair of veterans seeking that breakthrough win.
Should I give the fans what they want?
Some will survive, some will be sent packing. And one player will be closer to winning $1.5 million. From the Crown Casino in Melbourne, Australia, FullTiltPoker.net presents the Aussie Millions. Welcome to the Crown Casino and Towers, home of the 2007 Aussie Millions. I'm Barry Tompkins alongside Michael Koenig. Well, the field is now down to 25 players. Let's take a look at some of the notables. Andy Black is at 804,000 in chips, hoping to reverse his trend of blowing up in big spots.
And at Andy's table is hometown favorite Joe Hasham. He's on life support here. He's under 100,000 in chips. He'll be forced to play sooner than later.
Christy Gase is the last woman standing. She has 412,000 in chips, slightly below the chip average.
But everyone is trailing that man right there, Mark Karam, more than 2 million in chips.
We'll continue to check in with the field. Right now, our feature table. And remember, play is six-handed at this point. Paul Wasika, he's trying to prove his runner-up finish at the World Series was no fluke.
But Paul will have to contend with that man, the Great Dane Gus Hansen, four-time WPT champion, looking for another major win.
And sitting with them is local pro Emmanuel Curly Seal. He says he's relatively new to Hold'em, but you can see he's doing pretty well for himself right now. Hans-Martin Vogel is our chip leader at our feature table, and Robert Goldfarb very much on a short stack at 181,000. What's at stake? Well, we're playing for that trophy plus a top prize of 1.5 million Australian dollars.
That's 1.2 million US.
Action starts on Robert Goldfarb. He's an online qualifier. He folds. So does Wasika. And it folds around to Gus Hansen. Gus will call the queen 5 from the small blind. Now Seal with the queen 6. Checks.
Seal with the dominant hand going to the flop, but that's just where Gus Hansen likes to be. Coming from behind. And does he ever?
And there he is doing it again. Flops top 2 pair. Checks.
And Seal is in a world of trouble here. Both players are in the blind. Curly Seal manages to make top pair, and it's no good.
And 45,000 is a bet from Seal into Gus Hansen.
We see this kind of gesticulating a lot from Gus. He always looks like it's terribly painful to make the decision, but that mind is racing 1,000,000 miles a minute, doing the calculations, and he has decided he's raising
to 135,000.
Now, Curly Seal knows Gus Hansen's reputation. The guy is capable of making this move with a couple of spades or even a pair of 5s. But he also knows Gus sometimes has the real deal. And wow, what a fold by Curly Seal. Tremendous discipline. If Gus Hansen knew that Curly Seal had top pair there, he would commend that man for a fantastic fold. Curly Seal dancing between the raindrops.
If you're new to the game of Texas Hold'em, here's how you play. Each player is dealt 2 down cards. Then players decide whether to call, raise, or fold. If 2 or more players remain, the community cards are dealt. The first 3 are called a flop, and they're followed by a round of betting. Next comes the turn card, more betting. And finally, the river card. What makes it no limit is that a player can bet all his or her chips at any time. This is called an all-in. In this case, players show their cards, and in all cases, the best 5-card hand wins and takes the pot. As we check in with our dwindling field, you can see the ace-king of our chip leader, Mark Karam. He's in a coin flip situation with Jimmy Fricke's pocket 9s. And Fricke's all in.
We called a coin flip, but Fricky is ahead, and after this flop, he's way ahead. Karam looking for an ace or a king on the river. Fricky's asking for the board to pair. And he survives. He's up over 1 million chips now.
Biggest pot of the tournament so far.
You've heard of urban sprawl. That's going to be a problem here in Melbourne. Fricky is a force now, but Mark Karam, that man, still has nearly 1.6 million in chips.
How about Jimmy Fricky? We'll make our way back to our feature table now. The action is on Paul Wasika. And Wasika going to throw that hand away. Vogel also gets rid of his. Now an ace-10 suited for Hansen. 48,000, the bet.
Hey!
Pair of nines.
There they are again. I could see Seal repopping here. Great position for Seal, Barry. He's to the left of Gus Hansen, so Seal gets to react to the hyper-aggressive Dane.
Call.
And he just makes the call. Goldfarb got out of the way. So just 2 players to the flop. Trey, king, deuce on the flop.
Really good-looking flop for Curly Seal.
And Hansen will bet 66,000.
Seal has to decide, does Gus Hansen have a king? And he figures he does, laying down the best hand.
Well, we talked about how tough it is to play against a guy like Gus Hansen. So far, it's Gus 2, Curly Seal 0. They're playing for the trophy and a top prize of $1.5 million Australian. We're coming back. Welcome back to the 2007 Aussie Millions. 6 very familiar names remaining amongst the final 24 players. Gus Hansen's doing great. He's nipping at the heels of our chip leader. Meanwhile, Christy Gazes very much in the hunt. And Joe Hashim, the hometown hero, slowly fading away.
I'm Barry Tompkins along with Michael Koenig. 24 players left, a lot of very good players. How do you see the field now?
Unfortunately for the Aussies rooting for their hometown hero, Joe Hashim is on a seriously short stack. But he can take inspiration from Patrick Antonius. Not long ago, the Finn only had 2,300 in chips. He's now back up over 300,000. But the guy that I'm going to be keeping my eye on, Gus Hansen. You know, giving Gus Hansen a bunch of chips is like giving a cat burglar keys to the safe. This guy is going to rob everybody left and right, and we're going to see if he can get to the final table.
Well, you can't discount this young man, Paul Wasika. He finished second in the largest tournament in the history of the game, the 2006 World Series main event. He was heads up with Jamie Gold, and he's hanging around in this tournament as well.
He was a nice guy, Jamie Gold. Well, him too. No, I think he is, but we were talking about Joe Hashim.
Gus Hansen, who is a nice guy, looks at a pair of rags and throws it away.
There's just so many bad rumors about Jamie. I think he's a really nice guy. I've never met him. I mean, I wouldn't even recognize him. I don't know what he looks like. I have to admit, I wasn't too sure who you were either. Oh, really?
Well, he knows now.